Start recording at tingnan natin. And go live na tayo. At
Ayun, no?
live tayo dito ngayong gabi. Ayan,
Happy Mother's Day.
Ayan, Happy
Sa lahat
Mother's Day.
Batiin mo muna, ikaw muna. Trademark muna.
Ayan, magandang gabi po sa inyong lahat. Nandito naman po kayo, nakikinig sa Kuya Noel and Tito Aldo's show. Magandang gabi dito sa Winnipeg. Magandang gabi dyan sa Pilipinas. Happy Mother's Day, Kuya Noel!
Happy Mother's Day sa lahat ng mga ina. Binabati ko nanay ko. Nandito siya sa Winnipeg. Happy Mother's Day, nanay. At binabati ko ang aking asawa. Happy Mother's Day, Madam Gail.
Yung binan, no?
Ayun, mami, sa Pilipinas. Si Mami Bing. Yan ang top fan niya ng Diverse Food Canada. Sa lahat ng mga nanay. Sa buong mundo.
Whole wide world.
Oo.
Binabati ko rin yung aking magaling na nanay.
Yo, kami, kailan kayo babalik Winnipeg?
Sa Pilipinas, binabati rin ko yung nanay ng mga anak ko. At yung aking girlfriend. Magandang Happy Mother's Day rin. And ayan. Kuya Noel, anong mga topic natin? Agenda natin ngayong gabi.
Ay, naku naman. Unang-una, simulan natin sa restrictions na kalalabas lang itong araw na to. Nagulat lahat. Bigla-bigla, nagkaroon ng press conference yung sila Dr. Rosin, yung gobyerno ng Manitoba, at tungkol sa mga eskwelahan. Starting Wednesday, balik remote ang mga estudyante sa Winnipeg at sa Brandon. Hindi naman sa lahat, pero syempre, ang pinakamalaking population sa Winnipeg. So nagulat, maraming reaction dito. Actually, after that, nagkaroon ng biglaang press conference din ng NDP party. Sila Wabkinu, kasama ang ating kababayan si Malaya Marcelino, at binatigos nila ito dahil sabi nila walang kaplano-plano naman. Bakit hindi nung Biyernes? Bakit Mother's Day? Bakit Mother's Day in-announce na hindi man lamang nakapag-prepare itong mga magulang? So pati nga kami, apektado kami dahil siyempre kailangang ihanda yung mga bata ng remote schooling. Tapos ang problema nito, Tito Aldous, yung mga nagtatrabaho ng mga magulang, di ba? Halimbawa kasi, nabalik na naman sa remote. Hindi sila, binigyan lang sila ng 2 araw ng gobyerno to arrange kung sino ang titingin sa bata. Kasi kung pareho nagtatrabaho mommy and daddy pumupunta sa trabaho everyday, si anak hinahatid sa eskwelahan. Ngayon, magsisimula ang remote schooling sa Wednesday. 2 araw binigyan mo ng notice yung mga magulang para ma-arrange sa kanilang mga employers na, oy, by the way, ganito yung arrangement, di na ako makakapasok. Dahil may bata ako. Sino ba naman na matutuwa nun? Anong klaseng planning ang meron tayo? Conservative government. Tinamaan ng isa na
Ako na naman. Ayan na naman.
Hindi ba? Hindi natin naiintindihan natin na unpredictable yung number of cases. Pataas, hindi natin alam, may community, yung apektado na yung mga communities including the schools. Actually, dito sa Tyndall Community School, merong isang napabalitang positive. So, at the same time, kailangan din naman yung tamang pagpaplano. Sabi nga nung NDP, sabi ni Wabkinu nung Biyernes wala silang ginawa. At patunay na wala silang ginawa dahil nung Biyernes, yung parking lot kung saan nagpa-park yung mga members ng Conservative Party, walang kotse, Brad. Ibig sabihin, umuwi sila maaga. Hindi sila nagtrabaho ng gusto nilang umuwi dahil dun sa Mother's Day weekend. Hindi sila naglaan ng oras o at least man lang nag-overtime para ma-assess yung situation at sana within that day, Friday or Saturday night man lang, nakapaggawa sila ng desisyon. So, ang overall na tingin dito ng mga tao kawalang plano, magandang plano ng province.
Daming ang daming galit kanina, especially Kuya Noel, Mother's Day.
Oh,
Sa ating industry, sa funeral, sa cemetery natin.
oh,
Biglang nag-limit ng 5 people, tapos 6 social distancing. Alam mo naman pag Mother's Day dito, yun ang bisita
yeah.
Hindi November 1 and 2. Especially meron tayong columbarium, Kuya Noel. Ngayon talagang nakapulis tayo doon. At ang hirap mag-control, lalo pag ganyan, ng mga emotions ng mga tao.
Yeah.
Sa konting oras lang pagbisita, pero hindi mo masisi, Kuya Noel. Kailangan natin rin mag-iingat, lahat. Di ba?
Yeah, naiintindihan naman natin yung Tito Aldous, yung pag-iingat, di ba? At hindi tayo, kumbaga, alam natin yung problema na third wave na nga ito Ilang pang waves ang darating. Guusap nga kami ni Mrs. kanina kumbaga, ganito na lang ba ang buhay natin? Di ba? Ito halimbawa lang, Tito Aldous, wag naman sana. Ako, scheduled na ako magpa-vaccine sa 16. So pagka-vaccine, halimbawa lang, lahat na tayo na-vaccine, nabakunahan. No? Lahat na. May pumutok na naman na isang virus. Na ito naman hindi yung vaccine natin hindi compatible dun sa bago. Ano na naman ang mangyayari sa atin? Kulong na naman tayo. Di ba? Nanalo dito yung bansa na nagsimula yan
Believe ka, no? Pati si coronavirus nag-upgrade.
Nag-upgrade. Di ba? Kaya isipin mo, hindi naman tayo conspiracy theorist. Kaya lang, kung iisipin mo, nakontrol na ng isang malaking bansa ang mundo. Di ba? Mahirap na lang sasabihin, conspiracy theory. Pagka comment ka naman ng ganun, sasabihin, conspiracy theory yan si Kuya Noel. Hindi. Kung tutuusin, tingnan nyo nangyari. Pagkatapos magkalat ng virus ng bansa na yun, di ba? Bagsak ang stock markets. Sino bumili ng mga stocks? Di sila. Kontrolan nila ang mundo. Anyway, at gusto mo lang tirahin yung dagat doon sa Pilipinas. Nako.
Ay, nako.
Pag kuyas foods na lang tayo, kumain lang tayo ng isda.
Seafoods.
Seafoods, galing Pinas.
Galing Pilipinas.
Ay!
Kaya Kuya Noel, ayun, bakit napapaay ka?
Maraming maraming nangyayari. Bukod dun sa changes, sa restrictions, di ba? Hindi natin gusto yung bagong restrictions. Yung restaurant industry, yung mga kaibigan natin, sila Silver Heights, sila Tony Suwiki, mga kaibigan natin sa hotel industries, restaurant industries, bagsak na naman, Tito Aldous. Sarado na naman sila. Ano ba naman? Kawawa naman.
Kawawa dyan yung mga nagtatrabaho sa kanila.
Yeah.
Pero kung yung may-ari, Kuya Noel, ng isang restaurant ay innovative, makaka-survive pero hindi masyado. Kaya sila umaangal
Yeah.
Yung operation cost masyado malaki. Patakbo ng kanilang kitchen lang. Plus yung spoilage kasi nag-order na sila maraming stocks.
For Mother's Day.
For Mother's Day, punong-puno ng fridge nila yan Kaya nga yung truck ni Kuya's Foods po, hindi alam kung saan pupunta.
Oo nga.
Diba?
Kaya tingnan natin, let's hope for the best. Kaya lang hindi natin alam ang bukas. Kaya ang pinakamaganda ngayon, the only thing that we can do today is to give our best sa present day, di ba? Magpakabuti tayong tao, tumulong tayo sa kapwa natin, mahalin natin yung mga dapat nating mahalin sa buhay. Di ba? Because we never know.
Di mo alam kung may COVID ka na Di mo alam kung may sakit ka na or carrier ka, hindi mo sabi.
Di mo alam. At isa pa sa mga pagbabago, Tito Aldous.
Ay, nako. Ngayon, Kuya Noel.
Dito, sabi ni Mayor, this is an attack on democracy.
Mhm.
Kasi meron tayong yung Police Services Act.
Mhm.
Ito, isang legislation to na ipinatupad ng province. Batas to, legislation to. It's the Province of Manitoba's Police Services Act enacted noong 2009.
Mhm.
Ito, tapos meron kaakibat na bylaw sa city level. Ito yung City of Winnipeg Bylaw 148-2012. Parang Biblia lang, Yeah. Ngayon, itong province napansin. Maganda to, makinig kayo mga kaibigan dahil ito tungkol sa crime.
Mhm.
Napansin nila statistically, ang crime rate dito sa Winnipeg hindi mababa. Meron nga tayo naging biktima, kababayan natin.
Babae nga natin, yes.
Anak ni Tita Mel, Kuya Jim, di ba? Isa sa mga biktima at marami pang mga biktima ng krimen. Ibig sabihin, generally, statistically, pataas ang crime rates. Ngayon, nag-hire itong province ng mga consultant na pag-aralan nyo. Bakit nagkakaganito ang crime situation sa Winnipeg at sa buong Manitoba? At nag-come up sila ng mga different recommendations to restructure at baguhin ang ang Manitoba Police Services Act. At isa sa mga recommendations doon ay yung restructuring ng Winnipeg Police Board.
Yeah.
Ayan. Yung Winnipeg Police Board ay ang mandato niya. Alam mo, ang mandate niyan mga kaibigan.
Hey, Congressman, tirahay mo.
Is to provide civilian governance. Ibig sabihin, civilian, hindi police. Kumbaga may balanse na hindi ang nagpapatupad ng mga batas hindi mga kapulisan. Kumbaga magkaroon ng civilian eyes or governance doon sa pagkapatupad ng enforcement sa Winnipeg. No. Para sa peace and order, crime prevention, etc. Tsaka yung administrative direction doon sa kapulisan. Ito rin yung liaison officer to or liaison group between the community tsaka sa mga pulis natin. Ibig sabihin nun, inaalam nila yung mga pangailangan ng komunidad. Isa sa mga halimbawa niyan, yung mga pulis sa eskwelahan. Bakit may police visibility doon? Yun, bunga yun ng mga rekomendasyon ng Winnipeg Police Board sa mga pulis, sa Winnipeg Police Service na kailangan nyo ng presence yan. Dahil para ma-protektahan yung mga bata. However, yan, matatanggal na rin dahil doon naman sa budgeting naman, sa iba naman yung sa Bill 64 naman yun. Sa education, dahil hindi na mapopondohan yung ganon. So, in general, itong Winnipeg Police Board ay isa siyang tulay between the community, tayo, mga tao sa naninirahan sa Winnipeg at sa kapulisan kung ano yung gusto natin mangyari dito Aldous. Maraming krimen dito sa North End, maraming krimen dito sa Tyndall. Di ba? Ano dapat nang gawin? Ano mga programa? Ano mga priorities ng Winnipeg Services, ng mga pulis na dapat ipatupad? Ang recommendation na yun ay nanggagaling sa Winnipeg Police Board which is composed of civilian. Mga civilian yan para balanse. No. Ngayon ang gagawin doon dahil dyan sa structure na yan, ang pinag-aralan nito, maganda yung structure. However, pataas pa rin yung crime rates. So, parang may mali. Sabi ng mga nagkaroon ng study. So, nirepaso nila, it's still a recommendation. Hindi pa po batas to. So, meron sila mga suggestion. Isa sa mga biggest na impact nito ay yung, kasi sa kasalukuyan, may 2 konsihal ng city ang miyembro at even chairman ng Winnipeg Police Board. Sa kasalukuyan, ang Winnipeg Police Board chair ay yung kaibigan natin. Na-interview natin maraming beses na. Si Councilor Marcus Chambers ng St. Norbert. Tsaka si Brian Mays, isa pang councilor yun. Pagka napatupad to at kaaprubahan tong proposal, sisibakin yan, tatanggalin yan dyan, papalitan ng bagong istruktura. Na ang tapos, ang mangyayari nito, mas may control ang province doon sa co-coordinate sa Winnipeg Police Services.
Mhm.
So parang nawawala ng pakpak.
Ang city.
Mawawala ng pakpak ang syudad.
Yeah.
Kasi technically, itong board na to, under the Police Services Act, ang police chief of police, ngayon si Smythe, di ba? Nakalimutan ko yung title niya. Chief of Police Smythe, nagre-report yan sa Winnipeg Police Board.
Mhm.
Yan. Ngayon, pagka nangyari yun, magre-report siya doon sa bagong body na yun na ang mas may control ay ang probinsya.
Yeah.
Ang reaksyon ni Mayor, sabi ni Mayor, well, this is an attack on democracy. Sabi niya, attack on democracy dahil mawawala ng
Wala siya ng power eh.
boses yung mga tao. Sabi naman ni Justice Minister Cameron Friesen, sabi niya, in other words to, sinabi niya, shut up eh. Pero ang sabi niya, stop his complaining. Sabi niya, Brian Bowman should stop his complaining. Pag-aralan niya muna yung yung study or yung recommendation ng body. At ang nag-conduct nito ay isang grupo na mga binubuo ng criminologists. Isa rito ay Executive Director ng Ontario Association of Police Services Boards. At talaga namang mga experts doon sa mandate nung magiging mandate ng bagong pinopropose na body.
Mhm.
However, on the other hand, ayon ni Mayor, all-out support naman, Brad, yung kaibigan din natin isa.
Sino?
Si Kevin Klein.
Kevin Klein. Si Councilor.
Ang istorya nito, ito ang ganda istorya. Dating chairman yan ng Winnipeg Police Board. Dati yan. Nung makausap natin yan dati, pre-COVID pa, siya noon ang chair ng Winnipeg Police Board. At nakita niya dito, ito mapapanood niyo sa interview, sinabi niya mismo, ang Winnipeg Police Board is being politicized. Pupolitika yan, Brad.
May politics.
Oo, dahil yung mayor, siya nag-a-appoint ng mga mga members ng Winnipeg Police Board. Ibig sabihin, may halong politika raw. Di umano ang Winnipeg Police Board. Kaya sabi niya, it's now high time. Napapanahon na para i-review, balangkasin, ibahin, o magkaroon ng changes dun sa Winnipeg, sa Manitoba Police Services Act. Kasama na dyan ang pagbabago ng istruktura ng Winnipeg Police Board. At panoorin natin mga kaibigan.
Ayan.
Ang ating interview sa key Councilor Kevin Klein. At by the way, in this interview, Councilor Kevin Klein mentioned that he is highly considering to run as mayor of Winnipeg. And wait for that statement during our conversation. He said he is highly considering to run as mayor of Winnipeg.
Yeah.
So let's watch our interview with Councilor Kevin Klein. We talked about the Police Services Act and its proposed changes. At the same time, his plans to run for mayor of Winnipeg come fall of 2022. Ayan, share ko lang. Share ko lang ang screen ko.
Marami nag-aabang na.
Sabi, share nyo lang yung ating video. Share this video at kayo mananalo niya ng ng blessings. Ito, nakikita niyo yan. Tito Aldo.
Andre.
Ayan.
Ayan.
Sige.
Ayan.
Ipe-play ko ngayon.
Yan ah.
Siguraduhin lang natin na maririnig na hindi palpak tong aking pag-share. Okay, ito na po ang aking interview. This is my interview with Counselor Kevin Klein of Tuxedo, and we talked about the Winnipeg Police Board and the changes on the Manitoba, proposed changes on the Manitoba Police Services Act, and his plans to become or highly considering to run as mayor of Winnipeg next year. Take it away. We'll talk about the proposed changes to the Police Services Act. And I saw an article. I read it on. I heard it on the news that the Mayor Bowman, said that it is an attack on democracy.
Right.
And one of the proposals includes, of course, you know this very well, is one of the proposals the removal of city councilors. If I'm not mistaken, there are 2 councilors sitting there, right? From the Winnipeg Police Board. Do you or do you not support the proposal, and why?
So it's a great question, and I wholeheartedly support the proposal. I resigned as chair of the Winnipeg Police Board because of political and administrative interference. And the problem is that when you have elected officials, no matter who they are or what they tell you, there's going to be an air of political posturing that will happen on the board. And it makes the service and the governance, the governance of the service ineffective. And that was one of my biggest concerns being on the Winnipeg Police Board, is that it really should be focusing on public safety and focusing on true reallocation of bodies and funds and good budgeting practices. And some of the budgeting practices that are followed today, I am not a fan of. And in fact, I would ask that they be removed, and I've asked that they be removed several times because it gives half truth to residents. So I think this move that has been brought on by the firm that was came in from Saskatchewan, and they've looked at other jurisdictions across the country, it was absolutely what the Winnipeg Police Board requires today, because it's not working right now. It's failing miserably.
Okay,
and
I want to cut you there, sir. Sorry. So it's not working right now. It's failing.
Yeah.
For the better understanding of our viewers, can you tell us briefly what is the mandate of the Winnipeg Police Board, and what is wrong with the current setup of the board?
Good question. The mandate of the Winnipeg Police Board is really to oversee the Winnipeg Police Chief and to make sure that the service is meeting the needs of the community to a certain extent. So really, we are not involved. Sorry, not there anymore. The Winnipeg Police Board is not involved and not allowed to get involved in operational issues within the Winnipeg Police Service, and that's fair because we don't want politicians and people that are not versed in that world or experience involved in operational issues. But when you have politicians around and they get them involved in the budgeting, all of a sudden we are now involved, or politicians are, in the operational business in many, many ways. But I'll give you some examples of that because it's fair to give you those. At present, the Winnipeg City Mayor will select a chair, will select the vice chair. He allows council to appoint one person, but that will be decided upon by his inner circle, the Executive Policy Committee, because they have the majority of the votes. And then he gets to appoint 2 other individuals. And he can appoint a 5th one if he wants to. So that's 5 individuals that are coming from the city to the police board, and 2 that are being appointed by the province. I think what the province is trying to do is say, like, let's make this equal. And my hope is that they're saying, let's look at some other industries or individuals that should be on the police board to make it all encompassing of our city, because right now it is not. And another example of why I think that is because I could remove about $25 million or more from the Winnipeg police budget in the next 5 minutes. And that's just by eliminating the administrative fees that the Winnipeg Police Service has to pay back to City Hall. And that's an antiquated system that is long overdue to be eliminated. The system needs an overhaul. Status quo at City Hall is done. Like, we have to change in order to start moving forward. Policing has to change, but it cannot change by simply having photo moments of saying we're going to do a Bloomberg initiative that you don't have the ability to do because policing falls under the jurisdiction of the Minister of Justice. So there's a disconnect by having the service report to the city because, geez, look at all the police we had for the whiteout parties when we were allowed to have the whiteout parties. Cost taxpayers hundreds of thousands of dollars that we didn't get back. Who directed that?
You mentioned about policing, Councillor. In your official statement last Monday, you wrote or you said that I would call on the Winnipeg Police Service to use all available resources to execute any outstanding warrants, make arrests, any leads associated with illegal firearms, and ramp up the pressure on street gangs and organized crime groups in our city. When I read this, in my opinion, it's like telling them that, get up and do your job. Right? Do you think the police is not doing their job well?
Well, I think the police are doing what they can do with the way the resources are being handled today. And that's what I mean by allowing the system to make some changes, make some fundamental changes without the fear of having to report to two bosses. The police chief really is supposed to report to the police board. That's how it works. But the mayor appoints the police board chair. So, and if there is involvement from the mayor's office or the administration, you don't know who you're reporting to anymore. You just don't know. And no business, no employee, and no staff member can function that way. And it's evident. I don't think that the police aren't doing their job. I think they are. But I can tell you, I know enough from being there for a couple of years and talking to individuals and doing research with other services, we have some fundamental issues that we need to address within the Winnipeg Public Service or within the Winnipeg Police Service. We have an issue of morale. We need to deal with that. We have officers that are on restricted duty, a large number compared to other jurisdictions. We have to address that. We have to sit down and find a way to support our officers so that they can do what they want to do. And we can sit down with the province and say, we need our officers to focus here and focus there. So you need somebody else to do A and B or C and D. Not to be in a constant battle with them, not to be constantly calling them out like you're a bully on the block, but to work with them. And we haven't been able to do that for years. It's going to be 8 years when this administration's done. And we've done nothing positive with building that relationship and it's starting to show. If you look at our crime stats, I don't have to show you any other evidence. It's growing. I know of an incident today that it breaks my heart. And it's happening all the time and people are not hearing about it. Limited information is getting out to the public. And that is not an open and transparent government. So listen, get the politicians out of there and let's get some different people in there. It's time for an overhaul. When we did have a crime, I know I'm going on a bit, but this is really passionate for me, being a victim of crime. But I heard my colleagues and those on the police board when we were talking about those young kids that got robbed at gunpoint. Well, we need more neighborhood watch groups. Mm-hmm. Yeah. These individuals have guns now. They're carrying weapons. The last thing I'm going to do is tell my residents, the people I work for, well, put on a vest and give it a shot. See if that helps. We need to do more than just, hey, this is a politically correct statement. This will sound good. This won't get me into any trouble. We need to address the problem. And if that means we have to do a complete overhaul of the police board, which I think we have to do, then let's do it.
In my interview last week with Sean Loney, who,
Sean,
yeah, Sean Loney.
didn't hear the last name. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry. I interviewed him last week, and he recently announced his application for mayor of Winnipeg, and he said in my interview, and I want to show this to you, a very short clip, few seconds. He said, "Let's reduce the workload of the Winnipeg Police Service." Let's watch this very quickly, Councillor. And after this, I want to hear your reaction on his comments about the police service. That's the one that I'm sharing.
Yep.
Okay, let's play it.
We have this debate between, do we fund the police more, which we've been doing for 15 straight years, or do we defund them? And I think Winnipeggers are looking at those options and saying, I don't like the looks of either one of those options. I think we've tried them both and they don't work very well. And I'm presenting a new way of looking at this, which is to say, let's reduce the workload of the Winnipeg Police Service. And over time, we will see the amount of resources that the police need go down. And that does a couple things that I think are super exciting. The first thing is it frees up the police to be focusing on crime. Now more than half of the police dispatches are not related to crime at all. We're asking them to go out and perform duties that they don't have the mandate or the skills to carry out. So it frees them up to focus on crime. The second thing, which I'm really excited about, is that as the percentage of the budget spent on emergency services goes down, there'll be more money for recreation centers.
So you heard that, eh?
Yeah.
Any comment on that? You're smiling. Why?
Well, no, I hear that an awful lot, and it's very politically correct. Look, the reality is that the police, 50% of the calls the police respond to are not calls or not service calls that they're not supposed to do. These are just numbers that other politicians have pulled out of the air. There's no quantitative data. And if you want them to do less work, tell me what work you think they're going to do less of. Now, I've heard this from our current leadership. Well, they shouldn't be responding to domestic violence calls. But you and I know that my mom was murdered because of domestic violence. And I know that police are mandated to respond to domestic violence calls. The city of Winnipeg, the mayor, somebody who wants to be anybody like that, has to understand something. They don't have the authority to make that call. They are legislated. Law enforcement is legislated by the federal government and the provincial government. They have to go to those calls. I have spoken to an awful lot of individuals that work for the province of Manitoba and members of the union that have to go, that are social workers. They have to make calls sometimes that they're afraid to go on. The very first person that they want there with them is members of the Winnipeg Police Service right now. So you're going to say to that person, I'm sorry, you're on your own. You're going to have to go. Now, look, the idea is great, but it takes much more than just saying this is going to work and going to cut our costs. The reality is eliminate the nonsense, which is the administrative cost, eliminate some of the costs that they've taken on with vehicles and such, and work out new negotiations, get into new agreements for different items, and really centralize your divisions once again. The spending on police isn't new. Spending on police goes up every year. There's never been a year when it's gone down. So this really is about focusing the police on what they do and working with the jurisdictional leaders, which would be Minister of Justice, province, and making sure that we are addressing, as I've talked about before, the criminals. We're going after the top 100 criminals, and we're making it difficult for them to live in Winnipeg because they're the ones that are going after our kids. Because I'm going to tell you something. The mother who's waiting for her 14-year-old boy to come home from the park does not care if the workload of the police is more today or less tomorrow. She just wants her child to come home safe and wants to know that someone is going to get him there. So I don't want to get into that nonsense. The reality is we live in a state, in a society where the police have a role. Now, once we're going after those criminals and we're letting them know, there is other funding. We spend $40 million a year on consultants. I don't even want to tell you how much we give in grants to other organizations that are not under the jurisdiction of the city of Winnipeg. You could take half of the money for the consultants, half of the money for those grants, and you could fund. I have a motion coming with just $2 million a year. We could employ some of the at-risk youth in our city. That's tangible action. I mean, I can sit here and say, yes, we're not going to defund the police. We're not going to do this. We're going to reduce their workload, or we're going to bring down their, the need for them. But how? So you got to focus on the people that are doing wrong and taking our kids into a life of crime, and making sure that mom's child makes it home, and they're not robbed at gunpoint, or they're not stabbed with a needle on their way home from school. These are true stories that happen in Winnipeg. And then you need to put funding into the young kids and say, hey, listen, we have something else for you to do. You don't have to go and hang out with these people. We're going to help. We're going to have programs for you. We're going to do this for you. And we're going to make sure that you can, $2 million. Do you know how many free swimming lessons that would buy? My gosh, do that. It's amazing what you can do when you want to do it. And that's what I look at and say, when I hear all these other people talking about that, it's like, I get it and I appreciate it. And I think that's great that everybody thinks that way. But at the end of the day, moms want their kids to come home. Every mom, every dad wants their kid to come home. Every child wants their mom or dad to come home. We need to have a safe city. And then we need to have programs in place to take care of our kids. And those are the two places where we've lost the most.
This interview is being recorded and it will be shown on Sunday.
Will you make me look younger?
Which is Mother's Day.
Yes.
And I don't want to ask you this, but I have to ask you this. It's Mother's Day on Sunday, and it's a public knowledge. It's in your website. Your experience about your mom, what happened to her. If she's alive right now, what would you tell her?
No, it's a great question. I mean, the very first thing I would tell her is that I love her without a shadow of a doubt. And I would thank her, endlessly for what I had learned from her during the short time that we had together. Those are the first two things that come to mind. But I want to be able to tell her that I learned to fight because of what happened to her, and that I was able to make a difference because of what happened to her, and that it wasn't meaningless, that it wasn't forgotten, and that, she lived on in that fight. She was that candle inside me that burned to make things happen. A lot of people, it's funny, especially lately on social media, I've had a lot of people call me out and, oh, you live this privileged life, you have all this, and it's kind of, if you only knew, truth be known, I came from we were a very, very, very poor family. I went to several different schools, over 20. I spent time living in a shelter when I was at a certain age, because that's where we were in life. And we had to, we just had trouble. And I'm not complaining about it or looking for sympathy, but, I had a few people that I were able to find that cared and mentored me out, gave me things to do, got me involved in sports or martial arts or whatever. And I owe that. I have to pay that back. And that's why I'm here. I'm not here. It's not about the social media part, because I'm terrible at that and I don't like it. But I'm here to make a difference, because I think that the only reason that I'm here is because people helped me along the way. Not because of anything I knew, not because of any talent I have, and not because of any special skill that I was born with. Everything that I've accomplished is that I have to thank somebody for, because they've helped me. They've either taught me something, they've mentored me, they've showed me the way, or they've let me fall. And I've fallen several times. And every time I've fallen, it's really tough, but you stay down for a little bit and you wait, and then you wait a few more days and you get yourself up and you start all over again. And that's really really why I got into this. And so that's why I get frustrated, and I guess I'm not the best at being politically correct, because I don't think we have time for it anymore. I honestly don't. I think we just don't have time for that anymore. When I heard about the kids that got robbed, and then I heard about these kids that got poked with needles, I just don't want that. I don't know these children at all, but been there, been bullied and all that stuff. And I've lived in that part of the world. And that's just, we can get it out of that. We can get out of that just by helping and caring about each other, as opposed to caring about how that's going to make us look, or opposed to caring, well, if I say this, it might hurt somebody, but it will fix it. And then you just don't do anything.
Yeah.
Biggest mistake we're doing now, I think, especially as politicians, is nothing.
Yeah.
We literally are doing nothing because we're so afraid. And then we get into all the talks of the defund police, or do this with police, or let's do this with let's build more buildings for. It's all stuff, I'm telling you.
Yeah.
We can't do it. It's just all lies and hopes and dreams that we're trying to say that we can do, but in a couple of years, people will be out of office and it will never have happened, and people will move on to the next person telling them that. And I think it's kind of time to go, no, time out, like enough.
Yeah.
Every time I see, I talk to a couple of groups that take care of kids, where I used to go and I would teach the kids martial arts as long as they didn't get in a fight at schools and all that kind of stuff. And talking to them and then seeing the kids, that's why we're here. That's why we're here. Potholes, all that kind of stuff. But we have to leave the city in a better place than we found it. And when I get up, and I know it sounds like a cliche, but I honestly believe when I'm driving into work sometimes that I'm terrified for the future of Winnipeg. I'm scared. Mm-hmm. And then I look where I'm going to work and think, well, then I need to get off my, and do something about it. And I get challenged all the time. I hit lots of walls, and lots of people have their feelings or whatever. And they all have better ideas. It's like, what, if you have a better idea, great. But tell me what it is. Give me substantial evidence. Show me how it's going to work, and I'll get behind you 100%. Yeah. Until then, what we're doing now is not working.
When you said you will do we need to do something about it. Are you telling me or that you are really running for considering?
No, I am considering it. Absolutely. And I've talked to a lot of people, and I have to thank them for their support and encouragement. So it is something that I'm considering very strongly now.
Yeah.
And the more I see the things that I'm seeing, and I'm seeing nothing from colleagues or anyone else. I mean, and that's just it, right? When we have all these crimes that are happening around us, or we're going to have another bunch of closures and restrictions, and more businesses will be lost. And I hear from friends that, like, oh, it'll be the roaring 20s afterwards. Everyone's getting ready. It's like, I don't know if you realize that there may be a small group of individuals or a section or percentage of Canadians that have been able to save money during this time. But there's a big group that did not.
Yep.
And that's who's getting forgotten. And that's my life. And we can't forget that. Mm-hmm. So if we want to rebuild the economy, we have to, again, give a reason for businesses to come here. We're not doing that today. Drive downtown. You work downtown. If you were flying in a business leader or a CEO from a company saying, come on, let's take a look at Winnipeg. Let me take you downtown. I want you to bring your business here. How's that going to go?
That's right. Mhm.
right? So I want to do that, and I want to work with people, and I want to see kids involved. Our community centers are falling apart. Why are we, giving these 13, 14-year-old kids that live in the neighborhoods where they don't get the opportunities? Let's give them summer jobs, painting the clubhouses, or painting fences, or cutting grass. Why wouldn't we do that when it's tangible, it's effective, it's efficient, and everyone feels like they're a part of the community? Instead, we're arguing with different levels of government, and we're not getting anything done. And it's really starting to hurt. Because for me, I'm watching it, and we spend 2 hours arguing over buttons. And we spend 2 hours, on a transit master plan that really it's fake. It's a fake master plan. It's not going. This was just to get money for a garage. Read it and look at the money the city has. So, and now we're going to be starting to talk about, we desperately need to spend $110 million and put a sewer system out by the airport. Why all of a sudden? Why do I need $110 million to put a sewer system out by the airport?
Mhm.
I have land by the Red River Exhibition. They're trying to do stuff there and bring businesses, and we're not helping them. It's been 4 years. Polo Park, we stalled that $500 million investment. Portage Place, we stalled that investment, made that difficult. Now they're back and forth. Parker Lands, we stalled that one. Again, it's about priorities and not platforms.
We'll talk more, Kevin. I will set another interview, and
Sure.
let's hear the update, because this proposal for the changes on the Police Services Act is not yet approved, right? It's only a proposal, and I believe there are advocates from different sides, like pro and supporters of these changes. They are actually asking people to call their MLA so that it will not happen, while you is obviously supporting this act because of what you explained earlier.
Yeah.
So
Look at it and see that this is basically what's done all across Canada.
yeah.
And it might be time for the Winnipeg Regional Police.
Mhm. Let's see. So yeah, I'm looking forward to hearing updates on that, and we'll talk again to discuss about crimes, discuss about your plans. I really appreciate that you told our audience that you are highly considering to run for the mayor of Winnipeg, and
Ayun,
looking forward to more
Ayan.
conversation.
tinapos na muna natin yung ating pag-share na yan.
Ayan,
Tito
mahaba-haba
Aldous.
na.
Oo, mahaba. Mahaba ang kwentuhan natin si Kevin Klein dahil unang-una, napakinggan nyo naman, just a recap of what he just mentioned. Hindi nag-work yung current setup ng Winnipeg Police Board dahil sa politika.
Yeah.
Dahil doon sa meddling ng city government, doon sa board, yun ang ayaw niya. Kaya siya nag-resign dahil doon sa politika na yan. At aside from that, diniscuss din niya yung mga priorities. Diba? Yung tungkol sa crime. Diba? Yung hate niya ang pagiging politically correct. Kumbaga, lagi tayong nag-aalang gawin to dahil may masasaktan. Yung political correctness, lagi nating ino-consider. Nako-compromise yung pag-solve natin dun sa mga totoong issue na nangyayari sa paligid natin, lalong-lalo na sa mga crime-related issues. Yun. Ganda kwentuhan, no?
Mahaba
Sarap.
pa yan. Mahaba pa dapat yan.
Ay! Oo.
Hindi walang katapusan.
Oo.
Pag ano ulit.
Maraming salamat sa mga nanood at sa mga nag-comment.
Yeah.
At talagang yung iba natin mga audience talagang tinutukan yung discussion natin, yung pag-explain ni Kevin Klein. Maganda yung mga iniisip niya. And let's continue to assess these political leaders, mga civic leaders, kasi itong programa na to, i-explain na naman namin ni Tito Aldous. We are doing this for you guys. So that on October 2022, alam niyo na yung magiging decision nyo. Because napanood nyo rito eh. You watch this over at the Kuya Noel and Tito Aldo show, how they explained things, how they stood up on different issues. By the time the civic election comes, you know how to vote. You know who to vote.
Yeah.
And you have those justifications on why you are voting for those persons. Hindi lang yung sa pangalan, narinig nyo, sinabi nito. Tanggalin natin yung mga ganong kultura ng kailangan educated ang pagboto natin. Well-informed, well-educated.
Ayun.
Yun po ang aming ang
Plataforma.
aming mission, plataforma ni Tito Aldos, kaya namin ginagawa ito is to inform you, to educate you, and to engage you.
Ang kaganda pa dyan, Kuya Noel, dito nila unang naririnig sa Kuya Noel and Tito Aldo Show.
Nadali mo.
Hindi pa sila lumalabas any local TV. Dito lang po sa atin yan. Ganyan po yan tiwala sila sa atin, sa ating show.
Yeah, oo.
Yan.
Yan.
Pagtitiwala, Kuya Noel, marami tayong mga sponsors na pwedeng pasalamatan.
Tirahin mo na yung mga sponsors natin, Tito Aldo.
Unahin natin muna yung mga mothers at nagpapabati ngayon, Kuya Noel.
Yung?
Mga birthday celebrants. Sean Noel, happy 4th birthday. Yung mga mothers nagpapabati. Happy Mother's Day to Libreda Arikaya. Ayan, si ating Peter Godoy.
Roy, Peter.
Si Michelle Gonzalez, happy Mother's Day.
Si
kanyang nanay, si Mami Rosita Lial. And meron tayong dalawa, si Ate Cristina Mapuyan. Happy Mother's Day.
Happy Mother's Day, ma'am.
Ashlyn Diana. Yan, yung mga nakinig at nagpapabati ng Happy Mother's Day. Same thing sa mga sponsors natin, Kuya Noel. Kuya's Foods, of course, hindi mawawala yan. Ayun. Bakery. Nandiyan sila yan. Of course, Aldous Guzman Cemetery and Funeral Services.
Yo!
Forever yan, nandiyan.
Ayun.
Yung ating Care Leaf thermal patch ng AIM World. Medyo mabagal yung ating screen. Barley powder ng IM. Ayan. Tapos yung ating mga padalahan ng pera, Millennial Currency Exchange. Yan po sa Sergeant 204-306-8383. Red Closet, yung ating sponsor rin sa mga damit-damit. Meron pa to. Marami to, Kuya Noel eh. Ayan. Rowena's Food. Rowena's ano po to? Yung mga fruits, mga prutas.
Ayun.
Sa Logan. Yes.
At siyempre yung mga Cerilas, yan.
At sa Labat, Kuya Noel. Sige, may sinasabi ka, Kuya Noel.
Yung mga kaibigan natin, mga abogado sa Mac Philippines. Si Attorney H, tsaka si Attorney JB.
JB Casares.
Alam na ni JB Casares.
Ayan, Triple V, mga Ramos family. Gusto niyo mag-open ng video account? Kontakin niyo lang yung mga email dyan. Jeepney Restaurant, thank you so much for the crispy pata. At kung sino pa po ang gustong magpa-advertise sa ating programa, tayo po ay napapanood weekly dito sa Winnipeg. Nag-i-air tayo sa Winnipeg, but we are, of course, being watched globally. Yung marami tayong mga OFW din na nanonood dito. So if you would like exposure sa inyo pong mga businesses, all you need to do is to call us, and we have a very minimal advertising rates. Ito po ginagamit lang natin sa, siyempre, pangkape. Ayan.
Pangkaping barako.
Pangkaping barako.
Ni Kuya Noel at Tito Aldos. Para magising naman kami dahil dito, ang kasalukuyang oras po ay 10:48 ng gabi sa Winnipeg. Kaya gising na gising pa kami dahil kami ay nagkaping barako na may Kangen water.
Ayan.
Ay, the best. Abangan nyo yan.
Pahabol, Kuya Noel, si Suzette Eusebio.
Ay, suki ko yan.
Suki.
Ate Suzette.
Speaking of Suki, ang ating best friend na Suki, si Salceda family. Patricia Salceda, yung nanay nun. Happy Mother's Day.
Yun. Si Mami Lily. Yeah. Happy Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day, Suzette. Yung delivery ng bigas, wala pa. Pasensya na.
Ginigiling pa lang.
In-broadcast pa yun.
Ayan,
Alam
Viva
mo,
Hotdogs po. Thank you.
Hindi pa dumarating yung shipment. Hindi pa dumarating yung truck ng bigas.
Wala pa yung truck ng bigas natin, Kuya Noel.
Darating din yun.
Mapale-paleta.
Oo, paleta. Ayun, mga kaibigan, just a recap of what we discussed tonight.
Yes.
We discussed about the restrictions. On Wednesday, I hope you guys, especially the parents, I know that you are cramming dahil 2 days lang ang preparations natin for the remote of your kids. I know it's tough, but we have to face it. Suck it up, sabi nga ng iba. So all we need to do is to suck it up, right? And prepare ourselves and our kids kung paano man yung arrangement natin with our employers. We don't know how challenging it is, but let's hope for the best for all of us. And also a reminder for all of us, just follow the restrictions mandated by the province. Tulad na tayo para wala nang susunod na wave. Awa ng Diyos. Kakaano di ba? Sana naman wala nang mask, di ba? Puro lang tayo mask eh. Mga itsura ng tao, puro mask. Nakakalungkot. Kaya ganun lang po. Tapos secondly, yung ating diniscuss natin with the Councilor Kevin Klein, yung proposed changes on the Police Services Act. Pag-aralan niyo po yan because it will impact the community, the crime situation in the community, and how the Winnipeg Police Board works. Or a new governance or a body should work or replace the existing board. So, ganun po. Pag-aralan natin yan dahil mahalaga yan dahil it will impact all of us in terms of proper implementation of crime prevention programs in the city of Winnipeg and the whole province as well. So, at the same time, itong pag-interview natin kay Kevin Klein is getting to know him because he already said that he is strongly considering to run as mayor of Winnipeg. At least you know now, hindi siya nangangampanya. At least you know, his stand on different issues. On crime, on Police Services Act changes, on different things, on political correctness, lagi niya binabanggit, at some priorities na dapat gawin sa city. Para hindi tayo nangangapa pagdating ng eleksyon.
Ang tamang panahon.
Tamang panahon.
Ayun, 1 hour tayo today. Ayun, medyo mahaba-haba ito Kuya Noel. Please.
At sa pamamagitan po,
ang kape?
meron ka pang idadagdag, Tito Aldous?
Wala na. Siguro lang, stay safe na lang tayo guys. Sabi mo Kuya Noel. Let's follow the rules and restrictions. At huwag matikas ang ulo. Please lang. Nakasawa na itong COVID eh. So, nakapagod.
Yeah. Sige. At tayo ay magkape. Tandaan natin, kapag tayo nagkakape, tandaan ang gagamitin nating tubig. Kanyan water. At ang kapeng barako ay pinakamasarap na kape sa buong mundo. Darating na po.
Parating yan.
Hint na. Kapeng barako. Manda kayo.
Ayan. Habang nagantay, sirilas sa labat muna tayo.
Ay, sa labat.
Lagyan ng sirilas kalamansi extract. Ayan.
At mga hotdog natin. Viva Hotdogs, Santa Lucia Hotdogs. Kung anong gusto nyong hotdog, meron tayo.
Basta mapula.
Ay, basta pula. Pulang hotdog. Okay.
Ayan.
Happy Mother's Day sa lahat ng mga ina. Thank you very much for watching. Ito po si Kuya Noel.
And your Tito Aldous. Dito lang po sa Kuya Noel. Tito Aldous Show.
Bye-bye.
Stay safe.